There's a hush in the air tonight, a quiet so deep, it feels like the world itself is holding its breath. Can you hear it? The faint crackle of firelight, the distant echo of a wind that carries whispers from ages long past. Wherever you are, whatever hour finds you listening now, we'd love to know, what corner of the world are you resting in tonight? And what time does your journey into sleep begin? Let us know in the comments below, because tonight, we're stepping into a story woven with courage, legacy, and the weight of choices that ripple through time. Picture this. A lone figure stands in the flickering glow of a dying fire, his shadow stretching long against the stone walls around him. Before him rests the Dragon-helm of Dor-lómin, its steel etched with the marks of a lineage, both proud and tragic. This is no ordinary helm. It's a symbol, a burden, a beacon. For Turin, son of Hurin, this moment is more than a choice. It's a crossroads where fate itself seems to lean in close. The air thrums with the tension of unspoken battles, of a father's legacy pressing down on his shoulders like the weight of a kingdom lost. And yet, the helm gleams, almost alive, as if it knows the destiny it carries within its cold metal. What would you do if you stood where Turin stands now? To wear the dragon helm is to step into a light that will never fade, but also to draw the gaze of darkness itself. Morgoth's servants lurk in every shadow, and the price of pride is often paid in blood. But there's something irresistible about it, isn't there? The call to honor, to rise above fear, to claim a name that history won't forget. Tonight, we'll walk beside Turin as he hesitates, as his fingers hover over the helm, as his heart wars between the fire of his lineage and the dread of what lies ahead. This is more than a bedtime story. It's an invitation to feel the weight of legends, to lose yourself in a tale where every choice echoes through the ages. So settle in, close your eyes, and let the whispers of Middle-earth carry you away. The moment Turin lifts the dragon helm, a shiver runs through him, not from fear, but from something deeper, like the first note of a song long forgotten. The metal is cold against his brow, yet it hums with a strange warmth, as if the memories of every warrior who ever wore it are stirring beneath his fingertips. The villagers of Dor-lómin fall silent, their faces a mix of reverence and dread. They remember Hurin, his defiance, his fall, and now his son stands before them, crowned in steel and shadow. Whispers ripple through the crowd like leaves in a storm. Is this hope or doom? Outside, the night is alive with unseen things. The wind doesn't just howl, it speaks, carrying voices from the high passes where no man dares to tread. Are those wolves crying in the distance, or something older, something that knows the name of the helm and the bloodline it represents? Every step Turin takes away from the firelight feels heavier, as if the earth itself resists him. But the helm's weight is different. It doesn't drag him down, it anchors him. For the first time, he understands. This isn't just armor, it's a covenant. And then, a sound. A twig snaps in the darkness beyond the tree line. The villagers freeze, their breath clouding in the air. Turin doesn't flinch. The helm's visor narrows his world to a slit of moonlit forest, and in that moment, he's no longer just a man. He's the heir of a house that refused to kneel. The wind dies. The wolves, if they were ever wolves, go quiet. Something out there is watching, waiting. The The first test begins not with a clash of steel, but with the terrible, thrilling silence before the storm. The whispers of the dragon helm don't fade with dawn, they grow louder, threading through Turin's thoughts like a melody he can't unhear. When word comes that orc scouts have been spotted slinking through the eastern hills, his hand goes instinctively to the helm's crest, fingers tracing the dragon wings that seem to quiver with anticipation. The villagers murmur of caution, of waiting for reinforcements, but the metal against Turin's brow thrums with a different counsel. Strike now, let them see what fire you carry. He gathers a handful of hunters, men with grim faces and axes, still stained from last winter's raids. The forest swallows them whole, the trees leaning close as if to listen. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig, feels like a dare, and then, there, between the birch trunks, the glint of yellow eyes, the orcs are fewer than expected, scrawny things with chipped blades, but the helm's voice rises to a roar in Turin's skull. This is your moment. Make them remember, the fight is swift, brutal. Turin moves like a storm given flesh, his sword flashing in arcs so precise they seem choreographed. The orcs fall, but their dying shrieks don't sound like defeat. They sound like a message, a warning carried back to darker ears. When the last foe crumples, the hunters cheer, clapping Turin's shoulders, but their laughter rings hollow in his ears. The helm's whispers have shifted, now curling around his pride like smoke. This was nothing. The true battles lie ahead. Will you hide in the shadows of trees, or stand where all eyes can see you? One of the older hunters, a man with a scar running through his beard, grips Turin's arm. You fought well, he says, but they were scouts. More will come. We should fall back to the village. His words are wise, yet the helm's weight on Turin's head makes them sound small, cowardly. That night, as the others sleep, he sits by the embers of their fire, turning a dagger in his hands. The steel catches the light just like the helm, bright, hungry. For the first time, a cold knot forms in his gut. Is this courage, or is the metal singing him toward a cliff's edge? The wind stirs the trees again, but now it carries no whispers, no guidance. Only silence, vast and waiting. The morning after the skirmish in the woods, Turin wakes with the dragon helm still fastened to his head, its metal digging into his temples like the grip of an unyielding hand. The villagers bring news. Orc Warbands massing in the glens to the east, their numbers swelling with each passing hour. The scarred hunter speaks plainly. We must fortify the village. Bar the gates, wait for aid from the west. But the words barely reach Turin before the helm's voice rises, thick as smoke in his mind. Fortresses are for the fearful. A true lord meets his enemies in the open. He straps on his sword before the others have finished their morning meal, his movements sharp, impatient. Lalaith, his sister, catches his wrist as he passes. Her fingers are trembling. You're not listening to them, she whispers. Last night proved nothing. Those orcs were weak, scattered. The next wave won't be. Her eyes flick to the helm, and for the first time, there's something worse than fear in them. Revulsion. That thing is changing you. Can't you feel it? Turin wrenches his arm free. The metal against his skin thrums, low and insistent. It's showing me what I'm meant to be, he says, and the words taste like truth as they leave his lips. He rides out with only a dozen men at his back, their protests drowned beneath the clatter of hooves. The forest parts before them, sunlight dappling the path like scattered coins. Too late, they realize the silence is wrong. No birds, no wind, just the creak of leather and the slow, steady breath of the helm. Then the arrows come. They rain from the trees in a black swarm, punching through cloaks and shields alike. Men scream, horses rear. Turin's sword is a blur, deflecting shafts with inhuman precision, but the helm's whispers have turned to laughter. This is what you wanted, isn't it? A battle worthy of song, he charges into the thicket, where the orcs lie in wait with jagged spears and rusted mail. The fight is a whirl of blood and splintered wood, and when it's over, the ground is littered with bodies, orc and man alike. Back in the village, the wounded are carried through the gates, their groans rising like a dirge. Lalaith meets Turin at the threshold, her face ashen. "You left us defenseless," she says. The accusation hangs between them, sharp as a blade. Behind her, children peer from doorways, their eyes wide with something worse than fear, doubt. The dragon helm drips with gore, its once gleaming surface now dulled by grime. Still, Turin doesn't remove it. He can't. The metal has grown into him, its weight as familiar as his own heartbeat. Lalaith reaches up, her fingers brushing the helm's crest. "Take it off," she pleads, before it's too late. For a heartbeat, he hesitates. Then the voice surges back, drowning her out. She doesn't understand. She never could. He turns away, leaving her standing there, her hands still outstretched, grasping at empty air. The villagers whisper as he passes, but their words don't matter. The helm has shown him the way forward, through blood, through glory, through fire if need be, and he will not look back. Rumors slither through the villages like winter mist, whispers of scales scraping stone in the high passes, of ember-lit breath curling above the peaks. The dragon helm burns against Turin's brow when he hears it, its metal seething as if awakened. "This is your destiny," it murmurs, the voice no longer a whisper, but a drumbeat. "Slay the worm, and no one will ever doubt your name again." He doesn't call for volunteers. He chooses them, men with hollow cheeks and fiercer eyes, their swords notched from skirmishes they barely survived. They gather at first light, their breath fogging the air, but the cold doesn't touch Turin. The helm seals him in a cocoon of its own making, where every doubt is smothered beneath the promise of glory. Lalaith stands at the edge of the crowd, her lips pressed into a thin line. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. The way her fingers clutch her cloak says enough. This is madness. The land rebels before they've marched a league. The sky, clear moments ago, bruises with storm clouds that crack open like rotten fruit. Rain lashes sideways, turning the path to a river of mud. Horses stumble, men curse, yet Turin strides forward as if the tempest is nothing more than a veil to be torn aside. The helm drinks the chaos, its whispers rising above the thunder. See how the world tests you. Only the worthy face such trials. Then come the shadows. At dusk, when the company halts to nurse blistered feet and sodden gear, the sentries swear they see shapes flitting between the trees. Tall, too tall for orcs, their outlines blurring like ink and water. No arrows come, no war cries, just the creeping sense of being watched. One of the younger warriors, a boy with barely a beard, drops his spear and runs back toward the village, his sobs lost in the wind. The others shift uneasily, but Turin's laugh cuts through their fear. Ghost stories, He sneers, though the helm's grip on his temples tightens, as if warning him to stay silent. That night, the fire won't catch. The wood hisses and sputters, drowning their camp in smoke that coils into faces, into lungs. Men cough, their eyes streaming. Someone mutters of ill omens. Turin rises, his silhouette monstrous in the helm, and kicks the smoldering logs apart. We eat cold rations, then, or do you need a nursemaid to chew your bread for you? The jest falls flat. The men exchange glances, their loyalty fraying like old rope. Yet dawn brings a worse revelation. The scouts sent ahead at first light don't return. By midday, the company finds them, or what's left. Their bodies are arranged in a grotesque circle, their weapons piled neatly at the center. No blood. No marks, just empty eyes staring at a sky they'll never see again. The helm thrums against Turin's skull, its voice giddy. Now do you understand? This is no mere dragon. This is your proving ground. The men beg to turn back. Even the scarred hunter, once so steadfast, clutches his amulet and mutters prayers. Turin watches them, his fingers flexing around his sword hilt. The helm's weight is the only thing that feels real anymore. It tells him what he already knows. Weakness must be shed. Walk on, or become like these corpses, forgotten before you're even cold. He doesn't look back as he marches north. One by one, the men follow, not from courage, but because the shadows behind them have grown teeth, and the only light left burns atop Turin's brow, a cold, relentless flame. Deep in the wilds, where the trees grow twisted and the streams run black with runoff from the mountains, the betrayal comes not with a shout, but with silence. One of their own, a burly axeman named Grithnir, vanishes during the night watch. At dawn, they find his footprints leading east, toward the jagged peaks where the air smells of sulfur. The helm on Turin's head pulses hot, its voice dripping with scorn. I told you trust was for the weak. The ambush strikes at high noon, when the sun blinds them to the shapes moving through the heather. Grithnir leads the charge, his face slack, his eyes empty as polished stones. Behind him surge orcs clad in iron scraps, their howls grating like rusted hinges. The company scrambles to form a shield wall, but the ground betrays them, collapsing into a sinkhole that reeks of rotting roots. Men vanish into the earth mid-cry, their hands clawing at nothing. Turin fights like a thing possessed. The helm's visor narrows his world to slivers of violence, a spear splintering against his breastplate, an orc's throat opening beneath his blade. Yet for every foe he cuts down, two more take their place. Grithnir staggers toward him, his axe raised, his mouth moving soundlessly. The helm screams for blood, but Turin hesitates, just for a heartbeat, and that's enough. The axe bites deep into his shoulder, sending him to his knees. When the battle ends, the silence is worse than the carnage. The orcs drag Grithnir away by his hair, his body limp, his purpose served. Around Turin, the dead lie tangled in the heather like broken puppets. The dragon helm is cracked along the left temple, its gleam smothered beneath layers of gore and mud. He wrenches it off, gasping as the cool air hits his sweat-slicked face. For the first time in weeks, his thoughts are his own, and what rises in that clarity is worse than any battlefield horror. The helm lies at his feet, its hollow eyes staring up at him. Was this his father's legacy? This trail of corpses, this ruin of trust, He reaches for it again, then stops. The metal whispers, but the words are different now, slippery as oil. You need me. Without me, what are you? Just another fool who dreamed too high. Beyond the carnage, the wind stirs the heather, carrying the distant shriek of a hunting bird. Somewhere ahead, the dragon waits. Somewhere behind, the home he abandoned. Turin's hands hover over the helm, trembling. The choice is no longer about glory. It's about what kind of man, what kind of memory he wants to leave behind. The wind dies, the world holds its breath, and in that terrible stillness, the helm's final taunt slithers through his mind. Put me on. Or walk away, but know this, either way, Morgoth is laughing. Lost in the tangle of the forest, Turin moves like a ghost, his shoulder throbbing, his steps unsteady, the cracked dragon helm clutched beneath his cloak like a shameful secret. The trees here are different, older, their branches woven so tightly, they blot out the sun. He doesn't realize he's crossed into Doriath until the arrows find him, dozens of them, knocking silently in the hands of figures who melt from the shadows like mist given form. Elves, their faces are smooth as river stone, their eyes sharp with something colder than hatred, recognition. One steps forward, taller than the rest, his silver hair threaded with ivy. You trespass where none may walk uninvited, he says, but his gaze locks not on Turin's face, nor his wounds, but on the bulge beneath his cloak, where the helm's crest presses against the fabric. The air hums with tension, the kind that comes before a storm breaks. Turin's fingers twitch toward his sword, but the elf raises a hand. You would bleed out before you drew steel, son of Hurin. And we are not your enemies. They lead him deeper into the woods, where the light turns liquid gold between the leaves, and the very air tastes of spring water and song. The halls of King Thingol rise before him, carved not from stone, but from the living trunks of Malorn trees, their roots cradling lanterns that flicker like captured stars. The king's voice, when it comes, is softer than Turin expects. You bear a heavy legacy, child of men, but here you may lay it down. The offer hangs in the air, sweet as honey, bitter as gall. Around him, elven lords and ladies watch with faces like masks, polite, pitying. Their eyes keep drifting to his cloak. They know, they all know. The dragon-helm's whispers, though muffled, slither through his thoughts. They fear what they cannot control. They would make you small. Thingol extends a hand. Stay, learn, let the shadows of your past fade. For a heartbeat, Turin wavers. The weight of the helm has hollowed him, yes, but without it, who is he? Just another wanderer, another beggar at the table of immortals. The elves' hospitality is a mirror, and in it, he sees himself as they must. A ragged, prideful thing, clinging to a name written in blood. Then a laugh rings out bright, mocking. A figure draped in twilight silk steps forward, her eyes gleaming like knives. "Oh, do spare us the theatrics," says Princess Lothian. That helm reeks of doom, and you know it, father. Why pretend otherwise? Her words cut through the court's murmurs like a blade through cobweb. She turns to Turin, and for the first time, someone looks at him. Truly looks, not at the legend, not at the helm, but at the man beneath. Keep it if you must, she shrugs, but don't expect us to applaud when it drags you under. The hall falls silent. Thingol's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Turin's grip tightens around the hidden helm. Its metal is fever warm against his palm, its voice a viper coiled in his ear. They want to tame you, to forget you. Shall we remind them what you are? Outside, the first stars blink awake above the treetops. Somewhere, far beyond these guarded woods, the dragon stirs. The elves wait, the king waits, and Turin stands at the edge of a choice that feels less like salvation and more like surrender. The hearth fire casts his shadow huge upon the wall, a giant with a hollow crown. When he finally speaks, his voice is rougher than he intends. "I'll stay," he says, "but the helm stays with me." A ripple moves through the court, half sigh, half shiver. Thingol nods, though his eyes darken. Lúthien smirks, as if she'd expected nothing else. And beneath Turin's cloak, the dragon helm thrums, low and satisfied. The game isn't over. It's only just begun. Time moves differently in Doriath, not in hours or days, but in the slow unfurling of melodies, the quiet mastery of crafts that take mortal lifetimes to perfect. Turin learns the art of the blade from elven smiths, whose hands remember the first wars of Beleriand. He masters the harp, its strings humming with songs older than his bloodline. He even grows to love the dappled light of these woods, where no shadow lasts too long. And yet, when he sleeps, the dragon helm waits at the foot of his bed, its hollow gaze fixed on him through the dark. The elves call him a Daintel, a man-elf, a name meant to honor his skill, though he hears the unspoken distance in it. They praise his quick hands, his sharp mind, but their eyes linger on the chest where the helm lies wrapped in cloth, its presence a secret everyone knows. Only Lúthien speaks plainly. "You polish a blade you refuse to draw," she taunts one evening as he tunes his harp. "Tell me, do you keep it as a trophy or a tomb?" Then the orcs come. They spill from the northern passes like a black tide, their torches staining the twilight red. Messengers burst into the king's hall, their voices ragged. They've breached the girdle. The eastern villages burn. Thingol's court erupts in motion, silver armor flashing, bows strung, spells woven into the very air. And Turin, he doesn't hesitate. The cloth falls away, and the dragon helm meets the firelight for the first time in years, its steel drinking the glow like thirsting earth. The battle is a blur of shrieking metal and dying screams. Turin fights like a storm given flesh, the helm's visor turning the chaos into a series of clean, brutal calculations. Orcs break against him like waves on rock. His sword carves through them, its edge singing with a joy that frightens even him. The elves fight with precision, with grace. But Turin, he fights with hunger, and the helm whispers, "Yes, this is what we were made for." When the last foe falls, the elves lower their blades, their chests heaving. A young archer named Beleg approaches, his face smeared with ash. "We owe you our lives," he says, clasping Turin's arm. Then he falters. Up close, the helm is no longer just steel. It's alive, its surface rippling with something darker than reflection. Beleg's grip loosens. "You're bleeding," he murmurs, though the blood isn't Turin's. Back in Menigroth, the celebrations taste like ashes. The elves sing of victory, but their voices thin when Turin enters the hall, the helm still strapped to his head, its crest glistening with ichor. Thingol's toast dies mid-sentence. Lúthien, draped in shadows at the high table, watches with narrowed eyes. "Take it off," she says, not unkindly. "The battle's won." But the helm's voice is louder now, a drumbeat in his skull. They fear what they cannot tame. Let them. That night, as the feasting drags on, Turin slips away to the armory. Alone, he wipes the helm's bloodied surface, his own face staring back from the steel distorted, unfamiliar. The reflection grins. He doesn't. Beleg finds him there. "You fought like 10 warriors today," he says, leaning against the doorway. "But I've seen men drown in shallower waters than pride." He offers a skin of wine, a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Turin takes the wine, but not the meaning. The helm, propped between them, says nothing at all, and so the pattern sets like frost on glass. Skirmish after skirmish, victory after victory, each one leaving Turin harder, colder, the helm's weight more natural than his own skin. The elves no longer call him a daintel. Now they whisper another name when they think he can't hear, a name that curls through the halls like smoke: Gorthal. The dread helm. Even Beleg's laughter grows strained, his advice laced with something perilously close to pity. The final thread snaps on a morning thick with mist. A band of orcs, bolder than most, ambushes a hunting party near the river. Turin cuts them down without breaking stride, his blade a silver flash in the gloom. But when the last orc falls, something shifts. A gasp, a rustle in the reeds, a child, half-starved, wide-eyed, clutching a dagger too big for its hands. Not an orc, one of the enslaved, left behind in the chaos. The helm hisses. Mercy is a luxury for the safe. Turin raises his sword. Then Beleg is there, his hand locking around Turin's wrist like a vise. "Look," he snarls, yanking the helm's visor up. "Really look." For one heartbeat, the world comes back into focus. The child's face, the trembling hands. The dagger, not raised in threat, but clutched like a lifeline. Turin staggers back, his breath ragged. When he tears the helm off, the metal screams not in anger, but in triumph. It clatters to the ground between them, grinning up at him with its hollow eyes. Beleg doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The horror in his gaze says everything. This isn't you. But it will be, soon. That night, Turin sits alone on the battlements, the helm cradled in his lap. The stars above Doriath are impossibly bright, the air sweet with night-blooming flowers. Somewhere below, elves laugh, their voices weaving through the trees like threads of light. The helm is silent now, but its weight is answer enough. He knows what comes next. The only question is whether he'll walk away, or let the steel drown him completely. The moment Turin crosses Doriath's borders, the wind shifts, no longer scented with malorn blossoms, but with the iron tang of storms gathering beyond the mountains. The dragon helm sits heavy on his brow, its whispers now woven into his very breath, a constant murmur beneath his pulse. This is freedom. This is power. Behind him, the girdle of Melian shimmers like a half-remembered dream. Ahead, the wilds stretch endless and untamed. He doesn't look back. The first bandits find him at dusk, their faces gaunt beneath ragged hoods. They circle, smelling blood in the air, but their jeers die when firelight catches the helm's crest. One, bolder than the rest, lunges. Turin's sword meets him mid-step, the blade parting flesh like parchment. The others flee, but the helm thrums with approval. Let them run, let them tell. Word spreads. In taverns and trading posts, they speak of a shadow crowned in steel, a figure who walks through arrows like rain and leaves no survivors. Some call him a savior, a scourge of the creatures that haunt the roads. Others mutter of something darker, a man who fights not for justice, but for the sheer, shuddering release of violence. Turin hears none of it. The helm's voice drowns out everything but the next fight, the next kill, the next proof that he is more than mortal. Winter finds him in the high passes, where the snow burns blue under moonlight. A troll pack ambushes him at a frozen ford, their hides thick as oak, their claws scoring grooves in the ice. The battle lasts until dawn. When it's over, Turin stands knee-deep in blackened slush, his armor rent, his breath steaming. The trolls lie in pieces around him, their dying groans swallowed by the wind. The helm is silent for once, sated, or waiting. Spring brings a different kind of hunger. Villages begin leaving offerings at Crossroads, sheaves of wheat, skins of wine, once even a silver-chased dagger. Turin kicks them into the dirt. He wants no tribute. No allegiance, just the raw, roaring clarity of combat. But the gifts keep coming, laid by trembling hands. The people don't worship him, they appease him. Like a god, like a storm, then comes the day he doesn't recognize his own reflection in a mountain tarn. The face staring back is etched with scars, the eyes hollow as the helm's sockets. When he reaches up to touch his cheek, his fingers come away smeared with soot and old blood. The water ripples, distorting the image further. For a heartbeat, he can't tell where the man ends and the metal begins. That night, he dreams of Hurin, not the broken prisoner in Angband, but the father of his childhood, lifting him onto his shoulders to see the banners of Dor-lómin. A helm is just steel, Hurin says in the dream, his voice softer than memory. It's the man beneath who chooses what it means. Turin wakes with the words still ringing in his skull, the helm cold against his forehead. Morning finds him atop a windswept ridge, the world spread before him like a map of choices. Somewhere south, Doriath's borders hum with ancient power. To the north, the dragon's lair gapes like a wound, and beneath his fingers, the helm's edges dig in, relentless as a vow. The wind carries the scent of burning, a village, a forest, or just the fever in his blood. He turns his face to the horizon and walks on. The legend grows, the man fades, and the helm, as ever, whispers. The rain comes down in sheets. The night Turin stumbles upon the outlaws of Amon, turning the rocky slopes to rivers of mud. He doesn't see their sentries until the noose tightens around his throat, yanking him off his feet. The world tilts sky, then earth, then the gleam of a dozen knives pressing close. The dragon helm snarls in his skull. Kill them all. But when he reaches for his sword, a voice cuts through the downpour. Wait, a man steps forward, his face a patchwork of scars and hunger. That's no orc, he mutters, squinting through the rain. That's the dread helm himself. The ropes loosen, the knives waver. Turin coughs, his vision clearing to reveal the hollow-eyed wretches circling him. Men with nothing left to lose, their cloaks stitched from old banners, their boots bound with strips of hide. Refugees, deserters, the kind of souls even orcs wouldn't bother enslaving. Their leader, a one-armed brute named Androg, spits at Turin's feet. You're either a gift or a curse. Either way, we'll bleed you dry before we decide. But the helm thrums against Turin's temples, its voice slick with amusement. They're just like you. Broken, angry, perfect. By the time they drag him into their cave, the rain has washed the blood from his armor, leaving the steel bare and gleaming. The outlaws cluster around their meager fire, their whispers bouncing off the wet stone. They say he butchered a dozen trolls single-handed. They say the Elven king himself couldn't tame him. Turin says nothing. He doesn't need to. The helm tells the story for him. Its every scratch and dent, a testament to battles no mortal should survive. Androg tosses him a rusted cup of mushroom brew. Drink, then tell us why we shouldn't slit your throat and sell that pretty helmet. The liquid burns like acid, but Turin drains it in one swallow. When he speaks, his voice is rougher than he remembers. Because I can teach you how to stop hiding. Dawn finds them training on the ledge outside the cave. Turin, moving among them like a wolf among jackals. He shows the outlaws how to angle a blade to slip between ribs, how to read the wind before loosing an arrow, how to fight not like soldiers, but like men who have already died once. The helm stays silent, but its presence thrums in the way the men watch him, not with fear now, but with something dangerously close to hope. Weeks blur into months. The outlaws grow bolder, their raids sharper. They return with sacks of grain, stolen mail, once even a cask of Dorwinian wine that tastes like sunlight and stolen time. Around the fire, they toast Turin as their captain, their luck, their shadowed dawn. Androg, his one hand now steady as a smith's hammer, grins. Never thought I'd follow another lord. But you're something else. The helm purrs at the praise, its whispers curling around Turin's thoughts like smoke. This is what you were meant for. To lead, to conquer, to be feared. Then comes the trap. The scouts don't return from their patrol. The birds fall silent. The wind carries the stench of unwashed hides and rancid oil. Turin knows the signs, but the outlaws are drunk on their own victories, their laughter echoing off the cliffs. He straps on the dragon helm, its weight suddenly heavier than before. Bar the entrance, he orders, too late. The first arrow takes Androg through the throat. The second pins a young thief, named Algun, to the cave wall, like a butterfly. Then the orcs swarm in, their black eyes gleaming, their axes slick with poison. The outlaws fight like demons, but the cave is a slaughterhouse, the narrow walls turning their numbers against them. Turin moves through the chaos like a scythe through wheat. The helm's voice is a roar now, drowning out screams, drowning out reason. Every orc he cuts down is another thread in the tapestry of his rage. Rage at Morgoth, at fate, at the stinking, sweating unfairness of a world that grinds men to dust. A hand grabs his ankle. He whirls, sword raised, and freezes. It's Androg, choking on his own blood, his one hand clutching at Turin's boot. "See, Captain," he gurgles. The word is wet, broken, human. The helm shrieks. Finish it. Turin's blade descends. When the red mist clears, the cave is silent. Bodies carpet the floor, orc and outlaw alike. The helm drips with gore, its metal humming with satisfaction, but Turin's hands shake. Androg's face floats in his vision, twisted in something worse than pain, betrayal. Outside, the wind howls through the pass, scouring the rocks clean. The dragon helm tightens around Turin's skull, whispering, "You did what was necessary." But for the first time, the words taste like lies. He staggers into the sunlight, the helm's weight dragging him down, 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 not toward glory, but into a pit where even the shadows won't follow. Haunted by the weight of slaughtered outlaws and orc blood, dried beneath his nails. Turin walks south until his boots wear through, and his shadow stretches, gaunt as a wraith's. The dragon helm hangs heavy from his belt now, its whispers dulled but never silent, a constant itch at the edge of his thoughts, like a tongue probing a rotten tooth. When the towers of Nargothrond finally rise before him, their silver bridges gleaming over the torrent of the Narog, he half expects the guards to bar his way. Instead, they part like reeds before a ship's prow, their spears tipped not in threat, but in something perilously close to reverence. Orodreth receives him in a vaulted hall, where the very air hums with the memory of Finrod's songs. The elf lord's gaze lingers on the helm at Turin's hip, his lips tightening not in fear, but in sorrow. "You carry more than steel," he says at last. But here, even the heaviest burdens may be laid down. He offers a place among his warriors, a chance to wield his blade for something beyond survival. The words are a lifeline thrown into dark waters. For a time, Nargothrond works its slow magic. Turin learns to fight alongside elves whose movements are poetry, whose arrows fly truer than truth. He sleeps without dreaming of Androc's clutching hand. By day, he helps fortify the riverbanks. By night, he sits in the gardens where the scent of Nifredil almost drowns out the metallic tang of the helm's presence. Almost, then the scouts bring word of fire in the north. Glaurung has awakened. The great worm's name slithers through the city like a winter draft, snuffing out laughter in the halls. Council is divided. Orodreth urges caution, patience, but the dragon helm thrums against Turin's thigh, its voice rising from a whisper to a snarl. "He comes for you." For the last heir of the house that defied him, will you cower behind elven walls? When Turin strides into the war council, the helm is strapped to his head once more, its crest casting a jagged shadow across the maps. The elves fall silent. Orodreth's daughter, Finduilla's, gasps, not in fear but in grief. "Take that off," she pleads, "please," but the metal has already sunk its teeth back into his soul. Outside the gates, the horizon smolders. Glaurung's approach turns the sunset bloody, the very clouds recoiling from his furnace breath. The elves knock arrows with trembling hands, but Turin feels only a terrible, giddy certainty. This is what he was made for. This is why the helm chose him. As the first tendrils of smoke curl over the distant hills, the dragon helm laughs in his skull, a sound like cracking bones. "Run," it taunts the trembling city. "Run while you can, but we stay." The air above Nargothrond shimmers like a mirage, thick with the stench of sulfur and charred earth. Glaurung's massive form blots out the sun, his scales catching the firelight in a grotesque parody of the city's silver bridges. Turin stands motionless at the gates, the dragon helm's visor slitted against the heat, its metal searing where it touches his skin. The dragon's laughter rolls across the battlefield, a sound like boulders grinding together. "Little lordling," Glaurung croons, his voice slithering into Turin's skull. "Did you think your father's defiance would shield you? His chains could not hold me. What hope has steel? The first lash of the dragon's tail sends stonework flying." Turin dodges, his sword flashing upward to score a line across the beast's underbelly. A scratch, nothing more, but Glaurung recoils with a hiss. The helm screams in triumph, its voice drowning out the cries of the elves scrambling for cover. Again, deeper, Turin obeys, driving forward like a spear hurled by a god. His blade finds a gap between scales, biting deep. Black blood boils onto the earth, sizzling where it falls. Glaurung roars, his wings unfurling to blot out the sky. Fire erupts from his maw, but the dragon helm drinks the heat, its enchantments flaring white-hot. For a heartbeat, Turin sees the dragon's weakness, a pale patch beneath the jaw, pulsing with each breath. He lunges, then the world twists. The helm's whispers turn to shrieks, warping his vision until the battlefield swims like oil on water. The dragon's form blurs, then splits. One moment Glaurung looms before him, the next it's Beleg, his old friend, his brother in arms, staggering forward with hands outstretched. Turin, stop. The words cut off as Turin's sword finds flesh. The impact jars his arm. The helm's laughter fills his skull, but beneath it, there's another sound, a wet, choking gasp. Silence, the haze clears. Beleg crumples at his feet, his silver hair dark with blood, his eyes wide with something worse than pain. Understanding, the sword slips from Turin's grip. Around them, the battle rages on, but the noise is muffled, distant. Even Glaurung's mocking voice fades beneath the weight of what he's done. The dragon helm's edges dig into his temples, its triumph souring into something jagged and cruel. You wanted to be a hero, it sneers. Now you're just another tragedy. Somewhere beyond the smoke, Finduilas screams his name. The sound is a lifeline, yanking him back from the abyss. He tears the helm free, hurling it into the dirt with a clang that echoes like a funeral bell. The metal doesn't protest. It doesn't need to. The damage is written in Beleg's still chest, in the way the elves now look at him. Not with fear, but with a sorrow so deep, it borders on reverence. Glaurung's shadow looms closer, his breath hot on Turin's neck. Oh, this is richer than I dreamed, the dragon purrs. You've saved me the trouble of breaking you. You did it yourself. The words slither away as the beast turns, his bulk crushing the fallen helm beneath him as he slinks toward the city gates. Turin doesn't move. The sword lies useless in the mud. The helm is gone, and for the first time in years, his thoughts are his own, clear, agonizing, and utterly, irrevocably alone. The river Narog swallows the dragon helm without ceremony. No final glint of steel, no echoing clang, just the water's cold fingers pulling it under as if even the currents recoil from its touch. Turin watches until the last ripple fades, his breath ragged, his hands empty. For the first time in years, his head feels light, too light, as if the helm took more than just his pride when it sank. He walks west, though the word west means nothing now, just a direction away from the smoke, from the dragon's laughter, from the faces of the dead that flicker behind his eyelids every time he blinks. The land grows wilder, the trees gnarled and whispering in tongues older than sorrow. Villagers cross themselves when he passes, muttering of wraiths and cursed men. He doesn't correct them. 3 moons wax and wane before the rumors reach him, whispers of a figure in blackened steel, stalking the edges of Brethil, cutting down orcs with a blade that sings like a morning wind. At first, Turin thinks it's some ghost of himself, some unfinished echo. Then comes the detail that chills his blood. The figure wears a helm with wings. Meanwhile, far downstream, a fisherwoman hauls her nets at dawn, her back bent under the weight of silver scales and river muck. Something glints in the reeds, a curve of metal, half buried in the silt. She pries it free, her calloused fingers tracing the dragon crest. The moment the helm leaves the water, a shudder runs through her, sharp as a lightning strike. The riverbank blurs, the world tilts, and then voices, not hers, not human. By nightfall, she's gone from her village, the helm strapped to her head like a crown. The children who once played at her feet swear they saw her shadow stretch too long in the firelight, the steel visor grinning as she walked into the dark. Turin feels the shift in the wind before he hears the news. The air tastes of burnt metal, of a storm gathering just beyond sight. Somewhere, the dragon helm has found a new throat to whisper into, a new heart to hollow out. And this time, it wears the face of someone who never asked for glory, only survival. In the high halls of Angband, Morgoth smiles. The game was never about breaking Turin. It was about proving how easily the broken pass their cracks along. Years blur into a brittle kind of silence for Turin, the kind that settles over a man who's outlived too many endings. He drifts through the edges of Brethil like a rumor, his name spoken in taverns and campfires more often than his face is seen. Then comes the day a woodsman, breathless from running, stumbles into the clearing where Turin sharpens his sword. They say a warlord marches south, the man gasps, with a helm like yours, but twisted. It sings to his men, and they follow like dogs to a butcher's block. The knife slips in Turin's grip, biting his thumb. He doesn't feel the pain. What he feels is colder, the memory of steel against his temples, the way the helm's whispers once slithered between his thoughts like roots through a tomb. The woodsman prattles on, villages burned, children snatched, a chieftain who laughs as his enemy's bones snap beneath his boots. But Turin is already moving. His feet remember the weight of the dragon helm, the way it anchored him to a path he never chose. Now it's out there, molding another man into a weapon. Tracking the warlord isn't difficult. The land itself tells the story. Fields trampled into mud, trees scored with axe marks, crows so that they can barely lift from their feasts. At night, Turin hears the distant thump of war drums, a rhythm that prickles the scars on his back. The closer he gets, the thicker the air smells of charred flesh and something fouler, a metallic tang, like old blood simmering in a cauldron. Then he sees it. The warlord's camp sprawls across a hillside, a riot of torches and ragged banners. At its center, atop a mound of looted shields, sits the chieftain. The dragon helm glows dully in the firelight, its wings bent as if mid-swoop, but it's wrong. The steel is blackened, the visor elongated into a leer that wasn't there before. And the man beneath it, his neck corded with veins, his fingers drumming on a skull, isn't wearing the helm, it's wearing him. Turin doesn't charge, doesn't shout. He walks into the camp with his hands empty, his cloak thrown back so the firelight catches his face. The warlord's men freeze, their knives half drawn. They recognize him, not his name, not his deeds, but the shadow he casts. The same one their master wears like a crown. The chieftain rises, his laughter a wet, gurgling thing. Come to kneel, have you? The helm's voice slithers out from beneath the visor, but it's not just the warlord speaking. It's the metal, too, its words layered like rot beneath bark. Or did you miss me? Turin's pulse thrums in his throat, but his voice is steady. I'm here to bury you. The fight is short, brutal. The warlord swings a cleaver with both hands, his muscles bulging, but his movements are sluggish, puppet-like. The helm's weight drags his head sideways, as if it's trying to twist free of his neck. Turin ducks, rams his shoulder into the man's ribs, and they go down in a tangle of limbs and snarled curses. Up close, the helm's corruption is worse. The metal has fused to the chieftain's skin in patches, the edges oozing yellow pus. When Turin grabs the crest to wrench it free, the warlord shrieks, not in pain, but in terror. No, don't, it'll take me with it. The helm comes loose with a sound like tearing parchment. The chieftain collapses, his face sagging, his eyes rolling back. The dragon helm writhes in Turin's grip, its metal suddenly pliant as living flesh. It knows him, hates him, wants him. Somewhere in the trees, a raven calls. The camp is silent, the warriors gaping at their fallen leader, at the thing in Turin's hands that's now hissing like a kettle, left too long on the flame. He doesn't hesitate. He strides to the nearest forge pit, where the warlord's smiths had been hammering blades, and flings the helm into the coals. The scream isn't metal. It's something older, something that remembers the dark between stars. The steel blackens, bubbles, melts into a puddle that glows like a dying sun. The smiths stumble back, crossing themselves. Turin doesn't blink. He watches until the last rivet liquefies, until the dragon crest slumps into nothingness. When it's over, the air smells of scorched earth and something sweeter. Rain on the wind, maybe. Or absolution. The warlord's men scatter like leaves. Turin turns away, his hands empty at last, but the night isn't done with him yet. From the trees, a child steps forward, one of the captives, her wrists raw from ropes. She doesn't thank him, doesn't speak at all, just stares at the cooling slag, then up at Turin, her eyes too old for her face. In them, he sees the truth. No helm, no blade, no act of vengeance will ever scrub the stains from his name. The first drops of rain hit his shoulders as he walks away. Behind him, the fire hisses into smoke. Ahead, the ghosts wait, patient as always. The tomb exhales a breath of stale air as Turin steps across its threshold, his boots scuffing moss-grown stones that haven't felt footsteps in centuries. The chieftain waits in the murk, his silhouette framed by the jagged teeth of broken pillars, the dragon helm's warped wings, casting spider-leg shadows across the walls. It's like looking into a cursed mirror, the way the man's shoulders hunch under the helm's weight, the twitch of his fingers, the ragged breath hissing through the visor. Turin knows every tremor, every whisper the metal feeds him. He's lived them. No words pass between them. None are needed. The chieftain lunges first, his sword a blur of tarnished silver, but his movements are sluggish, as if the helm's roots have seeped into his muscles. Turin sidesteps, his own blade meeting steel with a shriek that wakes echoes in the tomb. The clash sends a shower of sparks, skittering across the floor, illuminating carvings of forgotten kings, their faces worn smooth by time, their stories reduced to dust. Back and forth, they dance between the pillars, the chieftain's strikes growing wilder, the helm's whispers goading him into reckless fury. Turin lets him come. Feints, waits. He's fought this battle before, not with steel, but in the dark corners of his own mind, where the helm's voice once slithered like a second pulse. When the chieftain overreaches, Turin pivots, driving his shoulder into the man's ribs. They crash to the ground together, the helm striking stone with a bell-like clang. For a heartbeat, the chieftain's hands fly to the visor, not to tear it free, but to clutch it closer, as if it's the only thing holding him together. His breath rattles wet, desperate. "You don't understand," he gasps. "It's better when you listen." The pain stops, the fear stops. His voice isn't his own. It's layered, warped, the helm speaking through him like a hand inside a puppet. Turin's grip tightens on his sword. I understand too well. The final blow isn't aimed at flesh. His blade arcs down, not to kill, but to cleave, steel meeting steel with a crack that splits the air like thunder. The helm fractures along its crest, a black seam racing from brow to nape. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the scream begins. It's not the chieftain who cries out. It's the helm, a sound like ice splitting on a frozen lake, like 1,000 nails dragged across slate. The metal buckles, black ichor oozing from the cracks, sizzling where it drips onto the stones. The chieftain convulses, his fingers scrabbling at the ruined helm as it peels away from his face in jagged strips, taking skin with it. He doesn't fight it. His eyes, when they meet Turin's, are clear for the first time in years, terrified, grateful, human. Then the helm shatters completely, shards skittering into the shadows. The ichor evaporates midair, leaving only a scorch mark on the tomb floor, already fading. The chieftain sags forward, his breath coming in ragged gulps. When he lifts his head, his face is a ruin of scars and fresh blood, but his voice is his own. "Why," he rasps, "why spare me, beyond the tomb's entrance?" Dawn bleeds across the horizon, turning the mist gold. Turin sheathes his sword. "Someone once tried to spare me," he says. "I didn't listen." He leaves the man weeping among the bones of kings, the weight of his own choices lighter by half. But as he steps into the light, the wind carries a sound from deep within the tomb, a whisper, or perhaps just the sigh of settling stone, the last shard of the dragon helm, buried where no hand will ever lift it again. Waiting, the wind carries the last remnants of the dragon helm's whispers away like ash, leaving Turin hollowed out and shaking on the blood-stained earth. His tears carve paths through the grime on his face, falling onto hands that have known too much killing, too much pride. Around him, the battlefield is eerily still. No crows, no groans of the dying, just the sigh of grass bending under a weight it cannot name. For the first time in years, there's no voice in his head but his own, and the silence is worse than any accusation. Memories rise unbidden, Lalaith's fingers brushing his cheek, Beleg's laughter by a campfire long cold, even the scarred hunter from Dor-lómin who'd called him captain with a loyalty he didn't deserve. Their faces flicker at the edges of his vision, not as ghosts, but as echoes, fragments of a life the helm had burned away. He reaches for them, but the wind scatters their voices like seeds on stone. No forgiveness, no condemnation, just the unbearable lightness of being known. A rustle in the grass breaks the spell. A child, one of the villagers who'd hidden during the battle, creeps forward, her eyes wide but dry. She doesn't flinch from the blood on his hands, doesn't speak, just holds out a water skin, her small fingers steady. The gesture is so ordinary, so human, that it cracks something open in Turin's chest. He drinks, the water washing the taste of iron from his tongue, and for a heartbeat, he's not a legend or a curse, just a man. When he looks up, the girl is gone, vanished into the long shadows of afternoon. but the weight of her silence remains, heavier than the helm ever was. The road ahead is empty. No wars to fight, no enemies to flee, just the slow, unending work of living with what he's done. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a bard strikes the first chord of a new song. The melody is familiar, a tale of a warrior, a helm, and the ruin that followed both. Turin doesn't turn to listen. He already knows how it ends. The air in the ruins is thick with the stench of charred wood and spilled blood, the kind of silence that comes after the world has finished breaking. Turin kneels in the wreckage, his sword notched and heavy in his grip, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Above him, the sky churns with storm clouds, as if even the heavens recoil from what's been done here. Then, cutting through the stillness like a blade through flesh laughter, not the crude guffaws of orcs or the nervous chuckles of men, but something deeper, older, a sound that slithers up from the roots of the earth itself. Morgoth's voice curls around him, oily with triumph. Look at you, last son of Hurin. Was it worth it? The defiance, the pride, the helm. Turin's fingers tighten around his sword hilt. The weapon is more relic than blade now, its edge dulled by years of misuse, its pommel stained with the blood of friends and foes alike, but it's all he has left. Around him, the ghosts press close. Laleth's smile, Beleg's steady hand, Finduila's voice, singing in the gardens of Nargothrond. Their faces are clearer now than they've been in years, as if the veil between worlds has grown thin. Morgoth's laughter deepens. You could have been great. You could have been mine. Slowly, Turin rises. His legs tremble. His armor hangs in tatters, but his back is straight. The Dark Lord expects rage, expects him to charge like a beast into the abyss. Instead, Turin lifts his sword not to strike, but to speak. The metal catches the dying light, flashing once, a fleeting defiance against the gathering dark. You took everything, he says, his voice raw but unbroken. But you never understood. The helm, the curse, the blood. None of it could touch this. He presses a hand to his chest, where a heart still beats, scarred but stubborn. I love them, and love doesn't burn. It doesn't break. It remains. For the first time, the laughter stutters, the wind stills. Somewhere in the void, Morgoth hesitates. Turin's sword trembles in his grip, not from weakness, but from the weight of a truth, too heavy for even a Dark Lord to mock. This isn't the end he imagined, no glorious last stand, no ballads sung over his corpse. Just a man, broken and bleeding, refusing to let his love be twisted into another weapon. The sword falls from his fingers, striking the earth with a sound like a bell tolling. Turin doesn't kneel again. He stands, eyes fixed on the horizon, where the first star of evening flickers to life. The last thing he feels isn't fear, or rage, or even sorrow. It's the ghost of Laleth's hand in his, small and warm, pulling him toward the light, and then quiet. Not the silence of defeat, but the hush of a story, ending exactly as it must. Somewhere, far beyond the ruins, a new wind rises, carrying the scent of rain and something sweeter, something like forgiveness. The tale of the dragon helm fades like mist over the mountains, its steel melted away, its whispers lost to time. But legends have a way of lingering in the corners of the world, don't they? Long after the battles are forgotten and the songs grow faint, the wind still carries echoes of Turin's name through the valleys of Beleriand, not as a curse, but as something far more complicated, a testament. Think of it. How many of us have clutched at our own versions of that helm, some gleaming prize we believed would define us, a title, a dream, a hunger for glory that promised to fill the hollow places inside. The dragon helm's true power wasn't in its enchantments or its fearsome crest. It was in the way it showed us the cost of letting a single story swallow you whole. And yet, there's a quiet rebellion in the way the tale endures. In the villages beneath the shadow of Amon-Rûd, mothers still tell their children of the man-elf who walked two paths at once, both hero and ruin. In Doriath's ruins, where ivy chokes the fallen pillars, travelers swear they've seen a figure at dusk, his outline blurred by twilight, his head unbowed. Is it memory, ghost story, or something else, the stubborn refusal of hope to die, even when the world insists on endings? The truth is, Turin's legacy was never about the helm, or the dragon, or even the blood staining his hands. It was about the moments in between, the way he paused before striking Androg, the way his fingers trembled when Finduilas begged him to stay, the way he finally let the helm fall. Those are the cracks where the light gets in, so when the night feels heavy and the road ahead seems carved from stone, listen, not for the clang of swords or the roar of dragons, but for the softer sound beneath it, the whisper of leaves, the sigh of a river, the space between heartbeats where choices still live. That's where the real magic hides, not in the steel we wear, but in the hands we unclench, not in the names history shouts, but in the ones the wind carries when no one's left to hear. And if you listen closely, you might just hear it, not an echo, but an answer.